news-wise, let's go ahead and talk about our presenter today, Morphy. I want to share my screen with you really quick. Morphy is creating a brand new game called Time Masters. It is a timed like puzzle game that is going to be released on Steam.
I banished her?
With a time crystal, she can be brought back.
Where can I find one?
The Tribes of Time. Aeons ago, the crystals were shattered into fragments and scattered across the Sky Isles.
What just happened?
You're all too familiar with paradoxes, Zeno. Use them to your advantage. You have the fragments.
Now what?
Bring them to the portal.
This is the last one.
Zeno?
It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, you saw the video. I'm going to copy and drop the link of the video in just in case it was a little stuttery with, Zoom, and sometimes screen shares can do that, so you can watch it for yourself. Looking at the concept art that is going on between some of the new levels, it's got this beautiful ethereal type of feel to it. It's a totally different feel than I've seen in a lot of other games, and I'm really excited to have this presenter on. So and we also have his Twitter on here as well as a link, and I'm going to copy and share this onto our chat as well. But I want to introduce Morphy. Morphy, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, going great. Thanks for the warm intro and for showing the game and all that.
Excellent. So it's Khaled, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Khaled.
My name is Khaled. If it's kind of sounds a bit strange for pronunciation, Morphy also works. I respond to that.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for hanging out with us. So you are a fellow Unity dev. Tell us how you got started in computer programming and development, and what led you slowly into Unity.
Yeah, so I think kind of game dev related, I guess my earliest involvement in that was the things like game mods and map editors, things of that sort, so like Railroad 2, Warcraft 3, that type of thing. And really, like, game dev have been something like I'm doing kind of on and off really slowly. But professionally, like I studied computer science, I work in tech. My specialization is more around machine learning, natural language processing, things of that sort. But yeah, obviously game dev has always been my passion, and honestly, I kind of only discovered Unity like maybe a couple years ago or something. Like I've always like kind of heard of it, and I just like kind of had a chance to try it out, and it was great. It felt like it's a very powerful tool, very convenient to use. It's like kind of very easy to sort of express creative ideas without having to worry about a lot of things that are kind of more metal or like infrastructure, things of that sort. But yeah, like I'm happy to zoom in on any part of that. Is
Yeah. So you mentioned machine learning. What specifically are you doing?
Oh, so natural language processing, basically just teach machines to understand language, that kind of thing. So understanding text structure, query structure, for things that can be related to various applications in so like kind of okay, I guess like I currently work at Google, and a lot of the things that we work on related to assistants, related to well, like Google search, the Google rich snippets, that type of thing. So that's like really kind of the core of my work.
Gotcha. That's amazing. So is it computers understanding the English language, or is it translating the language to other languages?
Yeah, so I mean, translation is one aspect of language understanding, and it's not just English. It's like kind of the hope is creating systems that can understand languages across the board, and like kind of uh, the core technologies or the core techniques for learning things, that's for building, creating building blocks for understanding language, is really applicable across a lot of these domains of understanding, whether it being translation, whether it being query understanding, or answering a query for like someone kind of talking to the assistant, that type of thing. Like at the end of the day, the techniques, there's like a set of core techniques that are very similar to across all these products.
So when you talk about having a computer understand the English language, is it set up to, in essence, dissect the string, determine the word, determine the phrasing, and see if it can promote an accurate response, or what's the logic behind this? As far as computers,
Yeah,
just trial
so
and error.
that's a great question. Yeah, I think that there's been quite an evolution there. Like, I think what you described used to be how things worked up until maybe 2016, 2017, is there's just a bunch of systems that try to understand word boundaries, sentence boundaries, how kind of something that's based on a lot of human rules that machines can run at scale to understand bits and pieces of the sentence and things of that sort. And that's now moving more and more towards really end-to-end machine learned systems, where your building blocks are just your kind of chopping off the text. That doesn't necessarily need to be at sentence boundaries or anything of that sort, and just like build an end-to-end system that's able to kind of differentiate the whole thing, propagate gradients all the way from the desired output to like how you're processing these kind of small bits of text.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. So I'm sure you get this a lot. What's it like to work at Google?
Oh, it's pretty cool. I think it's obviously a great place to work in terms of it's like kind of working on cool products and working on things that are really kind of close to state of the art, if not state of the art, and a lot of the core technologies. I think the one thing that feels missing is just kind of like you're doing something really small in a massive thing. Like there it's probably hundreds of thousands of people involved in various things. Like even in one single product, there'll probably be hundreds of people or something of that sort, and you get to play a small part, which is still pretty cool. But like kind of having working on a product, like kind of one thing end to end, is pretty cool. Uh, like it's kind of contrast to doing like indie dev work, I guess.
Well, speaking of indie dev work, because work is work, money's money. That's your salary. But then you at some point
Yeah.
decided, I want to build video games. Now, when did this click? And you jumped into Unity, and how was the process of learning Unity?
Yeah. So actually, like, Unity wasn't the first engine I tried to use for game dev. So like again, like it started with like mods, and maybe there was like the Warcraft 3 editor was maybe like where I spent most of the, well, a big chunk of my time kind of trying to create things, and passed by a bunch of other things like Torque Game Engine, Phaser, things of that sort. Just trying to, I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like kind of exploring, doing things. It's mostly for fun. Like I never even labeled myself as a game dev back then when I was looking at a lot of these, uh, and then I'm honestly not sure the point in which I kind of stumbled into Unity. It was like kind of it was at a point where like I thought HTML5 was going to be a thing, and that's why kind of I was investing in Phaser. And then at some point, it's like 2019, maybe I realized it's not, and like okay, like what cool thing can I like, or what sort of engine can I use later? And I think one thing I was really looking uh, for something with the cross-platform, and I was not aware that Unity had that support. And I believe the point, even when I was searching initially, it didn't have WebGL support, and that was kind of something that somehow I initially thought I'd be doing things that work in the browser, but obviously that's not what I ended up doing. And I just stumbled across a tutorial. I don't remember where it was, what the channel was, but like just looking at the UI, this was the first time I see an engine with a scene manager that's like kind of a drag and drop. That was kind of something I was like, wait, you're telling me I can just drag and drop things in the scene and arrange them with gizmos and things like that. And I just like I gave it a go and I loved it, I guess.
That's awesome. So, what came? How did you come up with Time Master? What was the logic there?
Yeah, so I think it really evolved. Like initially when I was just trying something out, I just said, okay, let me just try kind of make a small puzzle game and like put it out. And like I was just trying to remember what games I played previously that had like very cool puzzle mechanics. And the idea of rewinding, I think I saw it in a few other games. It was in Ratchet and Clank, A Crack in Time. There was kind of a mini game that had that. It was in there was a PSP game called Echo Shift. Yeah, that it's Echo Shift. That also like had a similar mechanic and just like something I thought, okay, maybe it will also be like a good coding exercise because it has this like it's a bit involved, like having being able to store states and replaying things and things of that sort. So, but also not too complex that take ages to develop. But then and yeah, and like kind of once I had something, just like things the scope started expanding slowly until someday I realized, well, I actually want to put this game up on Steam. So what do I do now? And then that kind of was a big increase in scope of the game in terms of kind of committing to doing things for the art, like adding a story, things of that sort. And it's also been incredible doing all these things.
So the puzzle mechanics that I'm watching right now are not the simple, move a box or set this onto a pillar. This right here blew my mind right now, where you actually have this crystal right here that reverses time, and you click on it, reverses time, it pulls the box back to where it originally was, and then you can actually take the box and move it somewhere else. Like, how did you come up with this type of gameplay concept? What was the logic behind that?
Yeah, so I think like starting from a point where I already like have the core rewind mechanic in place, like I was experimenting with adding more and more things, and like obviously kind of like a box, I guess, is kind of pushing a box around is very iconic of puzzle games, and um, like the idea of like kind of like being able to just incorporate the box in there and like do some special handling in a way that uh, would make it make sense in the grander context of the game. Like I already like had a lot of foundation when I was trying to introduce this specific mechanic, I guess.
Mhm.
Um,
Very cool. So give us an idea of what your scope is for Time Master right now. Like, how many levels do you plan on putting into it? What's the grand scope here?
That's a great question, and one that I still don't have a concise answer to. I think I'm thinking about it more in terms of play hours, really. And even that, I don't feel like I have a good handle on. Like, I get very high variability from, like giving to play testers, and, some would spend a few hours in the game and some would spend 10 plus, which is really confusing for me. I'm not sure I fully understand, uh, like kind of the variability in there, I guess. Uh, but I mean, this is meant to be like a relatively short game. Like I think I'd be content if there's like 5 or 6 hours of playtime, really. But the goal is verifying that we're already there, I guess, as part of the challenge. But I think yeah, there are a few puzzle mechanics. I try not to create too many levels that use the same mechanics so that it doesn't get boring. So I think there are maybe 8 unique mechanics or something of that sort. Um, and I think another part of the scope is also like I'm trying to develop a story for the game, and that's been quite a journey trying to create cutscenes and things of that sort and tying it into the game in a way that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's been yeah, like uh, fighting with timeline, I guess maybe is the way to put it.
So what is the story of Time Master? What is your concept so far?
Um, So the story, like I'm trying to develop, really is something along the lines of, like kind of someone trapped in a vortex, and like he's going around collecting all this fragments to save them, type of thing.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the general plot, and trying to have some couple of interesting twists in there.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hard to
Does he
talk
have
about it more without spoiling it too much.
does he have like an end goal and purpose in mind? Like he has to collect so many of these crystals at a certain.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The way I'm structuring it is basically like whenever you collect a certain amount, it triggers the next point in the story,
Mhm.
and there's always an excuse to collect another batch. That's
Mhm.
sort of the
Mhm.
general structure of it, I guess.
Okay. So how did you develop the time reversal mechanic? Because I don't know how you did that.
Yeah, I have a custom system that actually like keeps track of what the player is doing and what every element is doing actually throughout the course of things. And obviously, like one challenge was keeping memory under control. Like even like there's a Brachis tutorial on this specific topic, and it's basically saying, well, you can record up to 6 seconds, and obviously that's not gonna cut it. But yeah, the idea is just like having a system where you're like kind of taking keyframes, but then on the fly you're able to reduce the keyframes, remove the ones that don't really where you're able to reconstruct them with no error, basically. And
Mhm.
so that's basically how it works. Like as kind of each step, I'm taking a snapshot of everything, and I'm trying to see uh, uh, if I add the snapshot, can I remove the one before it and be able to reconstruct it very like semi perfectly. And I keep an error once the error accumulates a little bit more. I take an additional snapshot, basically. Um, and there are a bit of other like kind of quirks in there to handle things like replaying physics and things like that. These were I don't think that they don't really change the underlying concept. It's just a lot of special handling and thinking about how these sort of things can work in a way that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, but I think, yeah, that's the gist of it.
Wow, that sounds pretty complex for me. But the art is absolutely stunning. Did you make the art too?
Yeah, no, I'm not an artist.
Mhm.
Uh, this is like my initial version of the game that it didn't look very good. And like when I initially was trying to say, okay, like I want to put the game on Steam, I tried to consult some folks who are like they typically do like marketing for indie games and things like that. And they were like, you need to work on the art. Like, yeah, if you scroll like down far enough, you might see some of what the game looked like previously. But yeah, no, I got some help. I contracted out like the concepts you were showing earlier. These are things that I contracted out, and there's someone who's a more seasoned artist who's really kind of involved. He's giving me a lot of direction, a lot of guidance. Like basically, like I try to emulate the concepts that they provided, and like he looks over my work, and he's like, no, that's try to modify this part, or modify this bit to make it look more decent.
Mhm.
So though I would not have been able to create something like that without help. I'm not an artist.
So yeah, it's beautiful. I noticed that there's like winter maps. There's a nighttime map. Is this going to be one of those things where you have, let's say, like 10 stages in one environment, and then you go to a different world or a time difference? What's
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I set it up this way. But really the kind of sometimes when I'm even reviewing a level, like I get feedback as like the biome you're using doesn't make sense. Change that to snow, and then I do that. So it's not really. Unfortunately, it's not that I've constructed things in a way that would make sense. That here's like the adventure and the the grassy lands, and then the snowy lands, and then the rocky lands. I wish I did that. Like I wish I was more deliberate. Like knowing how the game looks like at the moment and the kind of things that are there, and just like going back and thinking, man, I really wish I did a lot of things differently. But yeah, I think like I'm also happy with how it came about, given it was a very rocky journey, really, like like kind of just trying things and things not working. And yeah, I don't know.
So was game development as hard as you thought it might have been when you first dived into it? Then, because I
When
mean,
I first dived into it, if you're referring to
just
um,
Unity in essence.
oh, no, actually, using Unity was way easier than I thought it would be.
Mhm.
Because like kind of my idea before, there was one time, it was actually during my college graduation project. I thought that I was interested in making a game, and we got together with a group, and we made something. It was kind of very simple, but my approach was okay. Like let's build our own game engine. That was a horrible idea. So coming from that, yeah, like I spent the whole summer just trying to put something together, and uh like I basically just got something that works with like kind of hierarchies. It can draw meshes and like draw skybox, and that's it. Like there's no audio, obviously no scene editor, no audio, no animations, no physics, no nothing. I
Mhm.
remember getting this look from one of my teammates. I was like, look at that. I was like, we can't use this.
Right.
uh I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, we ended up like so like yeah, in reference to that, because that's how hard I imagine game dev was, because like kind of doing things that like kind of you have to worry about how to interface with DirectX, and like drew the Utah teapot, and it was very excited. It's like, wow, I made a lot of progress there. Like having that level of abstraction is, I think, is awesome.
I've actually talked to a couple of students who are like, "Do you think I should just build my own game engine?" I'm like, "No, no, no. You got to get past course one first, and then we'll talk about building game engines after that." But graphically speaking, I always go back to this because you got these amazing particle effects in this game now. The shaders are on point. Um, the There's so much about this that I really like. It's modular, but at the same time, there's like these nice, beautiful centerpiece elements to it. It looks like you're starting to implement a lot of the shader graph or VFX graph on here, um, and you got these beautiful cinema machine cutscenes in here with beautiful character animations and things like this. Wow, incredible stuff. So,
Well,
give
thank
us
you.
an idea of all right, you're at this point. How far are you in this game? How much longer until it is released? It's ready to be played.
Uh, Fingers
Nah.
crossed. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm hoping soon. I'm hoping I can put something out in the Steam Fest actually a couple weeks from now. So I'm working towards that, like to have something that's kind of playable. There will be a couple of cutscenes, a few puzzles, and all that. But um, I like for like kind of how long until the game is 100% ready. I think at least a few months. I can't. It's very hard to predict, really.
Are you going to self-publish, or are you going to work with a publisher to promote
Yeah.
this? Are you going to enter this into some? What is it? Like there was the summer of Steam. I don't know. I think there's like a winter of Steam or something like that in comparison.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm planning to self-publish, but I'm also planning to get some help from marketing folks who'll be like PR. I think is something that I keep hearing is kind of something that's very cost effective. I should do that, and I don't think I have the expertise to just collect email addresses for a bunch of influencers and journalists and be able to craft something meaningful to reach out to them. So I'll kind of try to get help with someone to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Very cool. So you think sometime in the next couple months is when it's going to be released. Price point, have you figured that out yet?
Probably not. Probably not in the coming couple months.
Couple
I'm also still a few months, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Like
somewhere in the future.
hopefully, definitely not a year.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like kind of in that time frame. So, sorry, we're asking about the price point.
Yes. Yeah. What do
I
you think?
think this. I'm honestly also still not sure. I mean, I also like hear a lot of opinions and things about that. It also depends on what I'm hoping to get out of this. Like I'm looking at this really as a platform to build upon for future titles. I'm fine if this isn't profitable, or if it doesn't particularly, even if it doesn't break even. I think this is okay. And so I think I'm just gonna see how much traction we get from the PR campaigns, and then start thinking about what will be the best way forward there. If there's a way to, nudge the price up a little bit to recover some of the development costs without hindering people's ability to buy the game and join the community, hopefully, then I might consider that. But I think it will probably be somewhere from the $10 to $20 range.
Okay. Is it just going to be on Steam, or are you looking to bring it cross-platform to maybe? This looks like such a Switch title right here. It
Yep.
just
Yeah.
screams.
I 100% agree. Just the few folks whom I've known, who I knew, who tried launching similar titles on Steam and on Switch, that Steam did a lot better, and so that's where I'm starting. But I think I share your intuition. I'd love to launch it on Switch eventually, but
I,
not initially.
I know a couple of developers who have launched onto Switch, and it's yeah, optimization is key for that platform.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like Switch isn't, and that's probably going to be the bottleneck here because yeah, there are a lot of inefficiencies in a lot of different places. So
Very cool, very cool. All right. Well, so we covered pretty much, I think, most of it. The one thing you mentioned was the cost of development. I'm assuming that the actual cost of development came more from hiring the artists to build the artwork for this, correct?
uh, it's an interesting question. I think it depends on whether or not I'm putting my own time as part of the development costs.
Mm-hmm.
In this, if that's the case, then like I'd probably be dominated by my own time. But actually, I suspect that marketing might end up being more expensive than doing the art. But like the overall budget is kind of a low five-digit number, really,
Good.
uh, for the whole thing.
Like the
Uh,
art costs, etc.
but yeah, we'll see how things evolve because I mean, there's no limit to how much people can spend on marketing, obviously, because there's kind of if kind of going down the path of ads or something of that sort, that's potentially infinite spend. But yeah, I'm trying to keep things like kind of small under control for that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, every dollar you don't spend is a dollar you earned, in essence.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is absolutely phenomenal. Great work. All right. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop it in. But this has been quite amazing. Now, when it comes to, I would say, going about building your game, you've spent quite some time developing this. This has been kind of a passion project for you. You had an end goal. Other people always get excited about making video games, and it lasts for maybe a week, and then it disappears. Like, and you even working at Google, working in the tech field, you've met so many of these individuals. You know who's successful, who isn't. What tips and strategies would you give somebody who is planning on undertaking a project such as this, develop their own game to go indie, even while they're working? Like, what suggestions and tips would you give them?
I think these are the kind of questions where later on I realized, man, I wish I gave a different advice, but um, I think what you mentioned just around like kind of setting goals and having things that are manageable is great advice. I think maybe just trying to keep the scope manageable at least initially, like um, it's not starting too big, or at least if there is something ambitious, like having a very clear initial milestone that can be accomplished within a few weeks or a few months tops, or something of that sort, and something that's maybe not necessarily something released, but something where it's going to be like kind of okay, like I accomplished something. This is something cool. I'm proud of that. It's done at least at this milestone. But yeah, I don't know, like nothing else off the top of my head really for that.
Mhm. Just out of curiosity, so when you started using Unity, was there a particular component, package, bundle that you used that you now that you're at this point you're like I couldn't have built this game if Unity didn't have this.
Yeah, it's not really a component. I'd say it's the Unity ecosystem. And I mean, this is not why I started using the engine. I just stumbled across that, but this is probably why I would recommend it. Is that Unity is used by an army of hobbyists. I mean that in a good way. Like it's very popular. That has a low barrier of entry, and that does wonders to its ecosystem. You'd have probably, I don't know, like like hundreds of thousands of people trying to use it, explore things, and then they create immense demand on, like tutorial articles and videos, and so content creators are encouraged to create that. They create a lot of demand on the asset store, and also same like asset developers would put a lot of things out there. They'd be like kind of populating the forums with all sort of things, like basically every issue that I could conceive of that I run into Unity. I just like Googled the thing, and there's someone that asked about it in various places, and this is something that I can at least like based on my limited research, I do not believe any engine has that level of health in its ecosystem, and I think it's incredible. It saves a lot of time, especially for someone who's still kind of learning all that. Like I don't have a lot of experience with working with Unity.
Right. Okay. Now Chelsea asked, are you going to use in-app purchases, ads, or both for your game? Is it going to be, or
Oh,
just is it going to be like a straight purchase price?
Yeah, it's a straight purchase. It's a premium game, so I'm not planning. Even if I eventually port it to a phone or something of that sort, it will probably be just a one-time purchase. I'm generally not in favor of the model of like having kind of in-app purchases or ads or something of that sort. But this is really a bigger, longer discussion.
You can go down the path that everyone else is doing and just turn it into loot boxes and prey on the
Oh
game.
God, no! This is like this is really the thing that this is the epitome of how I would love to see less like games doing less and less of that, like kind of loot boxes is my low hanging fruit for pointing out about like how things went wrong with a lot of things in the gaming industry. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of opinions about that, but
You're not the only one. It is pretty filthy. I think, yeah. EA calls them surprised mechanics. It's awful.
yeah, I don't know. I think there's a good case to be made that it's kind of just this guy's gambling, but yeah, I guess surprise mechanics.
Agreed.
Kinder egg.
Did you upgrade your Unity version during the project, or have you stayed with the same version?
Yes. I started with a version. It wasn't even LTS. It was 2019.2, and it had bugs and issues in it. And I read everywhere that upgrading the project is a terrible idea, and I shied away from that. And I lived with the bugs. There were a lot of bugs around the UI and a lot of bugs like in various other places. And at some point, just things were. There was like some critical feature in timeline when I started working cutscenes. I think it was kind of animation rigging working in edit mode or something of that sort, that I was like, I really, really, really need this feature. I'm just gonna try to upgrade and see what happens. And things broke initially, and it like took half a day to just fix everything and get it back working. But I don't know. I don't fully understand why people have such a huge recommendation against upgrading. But yeah, I guess I did upgrade, and things worked out better.
All right. Well, it seems like it's pretty sweet, and it was a short one, but it was a good one. Any final words on maybe what you would like people to know before we end this meeting today? Any bits of advice, any little bits of encouragement, any type of lessons learned that you would like to share with people?
Nothing really comes off the top of my head. I'm like I really thankful that you invited me over here. I was kind of as I said earlier, I was kind of dying to talk to other folks in the game dev circle. I'm kind of working pretty much in isolation here, so it's great, talking to you and like having everyone around. And